When it comes to retirement, we're all concerned with the safekeeping of our funds. Whether you choose to leave most of your money in the bank or invest most of your money and put a percentage in the bank, you still want to be able to have the flexibility to access your money and have that money sitting safely where you can see it. A bank provides some of that security, and if you can get interest on that money sitting in the bank, even better. If you are leaving your money in a bank, please take advantage of high yield savings accounts because you can still benefit from the power of compound interest in those types of accounts. Currently, there are a lot of banks trying to entice new customers with higher interest rates on these high yield savings accounts so that you can make more money on your money. After a bit of investigation on my part, I found out with these high yield savings accounts, not everything that glitters is gold. I had time today, so I wanted to share my findings with you. So in this video, I'm going to give you a list of high yield savings accounts that would be good places for you to park your money if you're retired or you're close to retirement and you want to protect your principal. And I'm going to put them in ranking order. I'm also going to make you aware of the small print and the details I found that may have an impact of the interest rate that you're going to receive on your money. And I'll give you alternatives that you can use instead. So let's jump into it. Each of these high yield savings accounts advertise their APY. Now the APY is the interest rate of return that you would get on your money in this account based on compound interest of a year. First up, we have Synchrony Bank. Synchrony Bank is currently paying an APY of 4%, which is pretty good if you compare it to the top 50 banks in the US right now, like Citibank or Chase. They're paying really low. The APY they're paying on those accounts are probably less than 1%. So when you look at 4%, that's pretty good. Synchrony Bank doesn't have a minimum deposit or a minimum balance, and they charge no fees, which is great when you have a savings account because the money you want to put in there, you shouldn't have to incur fees for you to be able to use it when you need it and not have to pay silly administration fees. Synchrony is a retail bank. When it first started, it was a division of GE, but now it's a retail bank on its own. So it's FDIC insured. A lot of the banks you'll find online that pay high APY are not actual banks. They're neobanks, and they partner with a charter bank who is actually a member of the FDIC. So they're usually a division of a bigger bank. Now, one thing I found interesting about Synchrony Bank, their savings account comes with a debit card, which is usually not the case when it's an online bank. All of the banks I'm discussing in here are online banks. There's usually no brick and mortar bank that you can go into, with the exception of one that I'm going to discuss. When using the debit card from Synchrony Bank, you have a daily limit of $1,000 to use when you're taking money out of an ATM. You can use any ATM that is Visa Plus or Excel and not incur any ATM fees. However, if you use an ATM out of this network, they'll reimburse you for those fees. The reimbursement is only up to $5 for a statement period. If you're a Diamond Tier member of Synchrony Bank, and that means if you have over $250,000 in your bank account, you have unlimited reimbursements of ATM fees. When it comes to these online banks, because there's usually not a brick and mortar location, you have to deposit in certain ways. So you can either deposit by linking an external bank account and funding your account that way, or writing a check to yourself. The daily limit for a check to be deposited in a Synchrony savings account is $2,000, which is kind of low in my opinion because it's not being able to deposit it directly into the Synchrony account creates too much friction for me. I would have to deposit that check into another bank account and then move it over in order to take advantage of the 4% APY. So that's a bit of a con for me. I will say one of the pluses that I'll give this account is that their customer service was actually great. The representative that I got on the phone with was very knowledgeable and she was very polite, which I cannot say was the case for the other banks that I contacted for this video. Now there's two things I want to make you aware of when it comes to Synchrony Bank. You're not able to write any checks from this account. If you're looking for check writing ability, you should open up a money market account that they have at Synchrony Bank. Their money market account currently pays an APY of 2.25% and has no minimum balance requirement either. When it comes to the Synchrony high yield savings account, if you have a balance of zero for more than 60 days, they have the right to close your account. That's something I want you to be aware of. Now coming to number 2, the Capital One 360 Performance Savings Account. Now I wanted to rank this as number 1 because I am a fan of Capital One Bank, but I'll tell you why I didn't rank it as number 1. Capital One's 360 Performance Savings Account is a good account. However, it does not come with a debit card and you cannot write checks from this account. But you can easily open up a Capital One checking account and link the two together so you'll get checks and you'll get a debit card. And moving the money between your savings account and your checking account is very easy. You can take care of this online or on their app. One of the things I love about Capital One is that it's not only an online bank. They have brick and mortar locations that you can actually go into and deposit money if you need to or take money out. This is great because it gives you a lot of flexibility when it comes to having access to your money. A lot of these online banks that provide these high APYs do not have a physical location. And if they do, they may have one branch. So they're not very convenient if you're looking to talk to a representative or have cash on hand and you want to deposit that cash into your bank account. For the other banks, you'll have to go through an external bank that has a physical location and then deposit the cash there and then move it over, which can take a couple of days. So if you don't want any delays with depositing the money in your account and being able to see it quickly, I would go with a bank that has physical locations. With the Capital One 360 Performance Savings Account, you're getting an APY of 3.4%. Now this is much lower than the APY you're receiving at Synchrony, but it's still pretty good compared to what other banks are currently paying you on your money. There's no minimum balance requirement, no fees, and no minimum deposit when it comes to the Capital One 360 Performance Savings Account. Now, since I have an account already, I wanted to experience what it would be like to come in as a new customer. When it came to looking at information that was readily available on other bank sites, I didn't find it that easy on Capital One. When I wanted to contact the customer representative and find a number, it was a little difficult. So if you're a person who's a little older or you like more human interaction and you don't want to deal with a chat box or deal with just online, if you want a live person, it may be difficult for you to find a number in order to get in touch with a live customer representative. That was one con that I had. Now, I was able after a few minutes to find a number for customer service and call the customer service line. What I found was very disappointing. The representative who answered my call was not as knowledgeable or polite as I would like. And that goes a big way when it comes to handling my money, and I'm sure you feel the same way. I asked basic questions about this account, like what the difference was between the APY and the interest rate paid on the account, and the customer service rep was adamant that there was no separate interest rate. There was only an APY, which I found that was wrong. There is a separate interest rate. It's calculated differently than the APY, but she was adamant that there was no other rate. This was the only rate available. I found that a little off-putting because she was so sure of herself, and after a couple of clicks on the website, I was able to find this information on my own. She also told me several pieces of information that wasn't entirely correct, and I had to double check that online. I'll just give you this one tip. If you're getting any financial information, make sure you double check the information you're receiving. Even if you're finding stuff on YouTube, well, especially if you're finding information on YouTube, double check the information that you receive so you can know that you're getting the correct information or not. With this representative, she sounded so sure, but she was wrong on several different things when it came to this account. If a bank is pushing you to go more online to get information about an account, I believe it's because their customer service is not very strong. When it comes to taking your money out of this account, you're only allowed up to 6 withdrawals per statement cycle, which can be a little limiting for a lot of people. When it comes to my money, I want to be able to access it as much as I want. I don't like having a limit on the amount of times I can make transfers in between accounts and access my money, especially if there's no debit card that comes with an account. I like having more flexibility. Now, but this is not an unusual aspect when it comes to online savings banks. What I found that was interesting is that Capital One is currently not enforcing these transfer limits. So if you want to open an account right now and you want to move money back and forth, this is not something you have to worry about. But going forward into the future, this is something you want to keep in mind. The next bank I want to discuss is Markis Bank by Goldman Sachs. Now, I wanted to love this bank more. I used to work at Goldman Sachs in the past, so I was very interested in finding out more information about their new online bank and their savings account. Markis Bank currently pays an APY of 3.75%, which is really good. And there's no minimum balance and no minimum deposit, and there's no fees, which is great when it comes to a savings account. There are no debit cards or checks that come with this account, and you have no option in order to get that. So you can't get a money market account or a checking account at Markis Bank, as far as I can find. So the only way you can get your money in and out of this bank is by having an external account and linking that to your Markis savings account. Now, some people may not have a problem with this, but like I said, when it comes to accessing my money and being able to have the flexibility, I want to be able to not have to use a secondary institution in order to give me access to my money or put money into my bank account. However, just going through their site and speaking to customer service, it doesn't seem like they prioritize a live customer service, which I can understand. But I did get in touch with a customer representative and she was pretty knowledgeable. When it came to external transactions, she couldn't give me an idea of what the transfer limits were when it came to how many withdrawals I could do within a month or a statement cycle. But they do have an amount of $100,000 that you can move money back and forth up to $100,000 within 30 days. So let's say you wanted to move over $25,000 and then the next day you wanted to move over maybe $50. You can do that up to $100,000. But it did not tell me how many transfers I'm able to do within a month and what they would charge me if I went over that limit. Given that the rep couldn't tell me that and I couldn't find it online, that gave me a lot of uncertainty about this account. And I don't like any uncertainties when it comes to my money, and I'm sure you don't either. I like everything written out in plain English so I know exactly what I'm getting into and what limits I have on what I can do with my money in your institution. And you should have the same requirements when it comes to using a bank for your money, especially if you're retired or close to being retired. Now, if you like Markis and you want to look into one of their products, one of the products I suggest you look at is their no penalty CD, which is currently paying an APY of 3.85%. Now, the term of the CD is 13 months, but there's no penalty for early withdrawal. The minimum you have to deposit for the CD is $500, but you can withdraw that amount after your money has been sitting there for a week. Many people will hit you with a penalty if you try to withdraw your money from a CD. I found this very interesting. So if you have money in savings that you don't need for the next 13 months, or you do need, you might want to look at Markis for the no penalty CD instead of their savings account. Next up, we have Basque Bank. Now, Basque Bank is paying an APY of 4.25%. Now, you may be wondering why I have this so low on the list. Basque Bank is a neobank, and it's a division of the Texas Capital Bank. Texas Capital is actually the member of the FDIC. Not Basque Bank. With Basque Bank, you don't get any debit cards or checks that come with this savings account. And I know you're not expecting to get a check, but you want to have the ability to open up some kind of associated checking account so you can keep things in one place. Now, Basque Bank provides two different savings accounts. One is a high yield savings account. The other one is a mileage savings account. So you get miles for every dollar that you put into this account. The miles are for American Airlines. So if you want to get miles on top of having your savings in an account, maybe you want to look at their mileage savings account. If not, and you want to look at high yield and take advantage of the 4.25% APY, look at their high yield savings account. Even though there's no minimum deposit or no account balance, if you have no money in your account for 15 days, they have the option to close your account. So even though there's no minimum, make sure you have at least $1 in the account so that you don't face the risk of them closing out your account. One of the good things I found about this account is that you can have a Bass high yield savings account and a mileage account at the same time. One of the downsides of this account is that you can only link 2 external accounts to this savings account. This I found problematic because I have different accounts for different reasons, and you might find yourself in the same position. I have joint accounts in different banks, and I have accounts in different banks for other reasons. I want the flexibility to link more than 2 external bank accounts so that I can move money around as I see fit. Limiting a customer to just 2 external accounts, especially when you don't have a brick and mortar location, is a big downside for me. As with most banks, you're allowed up to 6 transfers within a month, which is normal, but I would like it to have a checking account that I can do at Basque Bank so I can move it back and forth. I think they may have some kind of arrangement with Texas Capital that if you have a Texas Capital checking account, maybe that doesn't apply there. But please do your research on that so you can confirm for yourself. And the last high yield savings account to make my list is a Discover savings account, which is currently paying an APY of 3.5%. I found it interesting that a lot of websites had this bank ranked higher at the number 1 spot over the other banks that I listed in this video. There's several reasons why this bank is lower on my list than you may find across the internet. Now, Discover Bank, not only does it pay a lower APY than some of the banks I mentioned here, but it also has a few restrictions. Now, when you first look at the bank, it'll say, oh, sign up, open an account, and you'll get a bonus. You get a bonus of $150 or $200. But when you look at the fine print, that bonus comes with some stipulations. In order to receive the $150 bonus, you have to deposit $15,000 within 30 days of opening the account. If you want to get the $200 bonus, you have to deposit at least $25,000 within 30 days of opening the account. This bank also does not provide any debit card or checks with this account. If you want to deposit money into this account, you can do it online, over the phone, or through their app. I asked if there was an actual physical location for Discover Bank. There happens to be one, and it's in Delaware. If you live in Delaware, maybe this is not an issue, but if you're looking for a physical location, this is not the bank for you if you have cash and you want to have the flexibility of putting it into that bank. If you make the requirement to receive the $150 or the $200, you should use the offer code N as in Nancy, W as in Walter, 323. So NW323 is the offer code if you want to take advantage of the bonuses they're giving with this account. If you want to be able to take your money out of an ATM with this account, you cannot. If you're looking to use Discover Bank as a savings account for your money, you will need to open up a money market account. Their money market account does have a minimum deposit amount, and that minimum deposit is $2,500. With that money market account, you'll get a debit card and checks. If you want to get money out of this account, you will have to ask them to cut you a check. If they cut you a check, depending on the amount, it will take 5 to 7 business days. If the amount is large, they probably will rush it to you, but I just wanted you to be aware. One thing I was surprised about this is that their customer service was great. The representative I spoke to didn't know all the answers to the questions I asked, but she did some research, came back to me promptly with the answers I needed. So I will give them bonus points for having great customer service. Each of the banks that I mentioned in this video all have great apps that you can use on your phone to make it easier to manage your account. They also have great websites that are not that hard to navigate. So even if you're used to speaking to a live representative, it is pretty easy to use your customer interface on their website to figure out what you want to do and open an account. I know a lot of people are concerned that opening bank accounts may affect your credit score. None of these bank accounts affect your credit score when you open a bank account, but they will require you to have some ID in order to open an account. It's usually a social security card and a government issued ID. So that could be a driver's license or a passport. If you're older and you're retired, I know it's very hard for you to want to switch banks, but it may be worthwhile to switch to some of these banks or add them to your money management system because the APYs are relatively decent for what you can receive right now with minimal risk. You just have to deal with the limitations that come with these accounts and be able to link them to an external account. But be open to these kinds of savings accounts because you can take advantage of compound interest without exposing yourself to some of the risks you may face when investing your money in the stock market. Now, if you're looking for a bank account that provides you a lot of flexibility, a debit card, pays you a bit of interest, and reimburses you for ATM fees, then I suggest you check out this video right here. I don't get paid from Charles Schwab, but Charles Schwab is one of the banks I like. They don't pay as high as an APY as these other banks I mentioned in this, but I think it's a great bank if you want more flexibility. If you combine that with one of the banks on this list, I think you'll be very happy. I currently use the system with my own money, and the limitations don't really affect me that much. I hope you found this video helpful, and please subscribe to the channel because we will love to have you as part of our community.